Greetings, syrup connoisseurs. In case you were wondering, the North American maple syrup business cranks out about 3.5 million gallons of syrup annually. What a generous serving of maple syrup. Making the syrup, though, is no picnic. The production of that familiar golden sweet nectar requires an exact blend of history, technology, and nature. Then, what is the process for making maple syrup? All right, let's go head first into the procedure. Please like and subscribe for more delicious videos before we begin. Shaking the trees is where the magic begins, so let's do that first. Sap starts to flow from sugar maple trees in early spring, when temperatures start to swing from cold at night to warm throughout the day. But how can we extract that sap? We must harvest the trees. Drilling a tiny hole in the tree's trunk and inserting a metal spout or tap is how tapping is done. In order to gather sap, these taps are typically linked to contemporary tubing systems that wind between trees or to buckets. The sap consists primarily of water with a trace amount of sugar, about 2% to 3%. A gallon of syrup requires a substantial amount of sap. Actually, 40 gallons of sap are required to produce only 1 gallon of pure maple syrup. The tapping of trees triggers the release of sap. The question is, how does it make it from the forest to the sugar hut, the site of the true miracle? When it comes to this, nature is very much the boss. As a result of changes in internal pressure brought about by colder nights and warmer days, sap rises through the tree's trunk and flows out the tap. When circumstances are ideal, this procedure might continue for many weeks in the early spring. Days with moderate daytime temperatures and cool evenings are ideal for sap flow. The sap is forced out of the tree as a result of the pressure that builds up inside due to the temperature fluctuations. Moving on to the next step, sap harvesting follows after sap collection. Bringing the sap-filled buckets to a storage tank is a standard step in making maple syrup the old-fashioned way. These days, most systems employ tubing to carry the sap all the way to the center. The next major phase, concentration, may begin once the sap has been transferred to the tank. To produce maple syrup, one needs a large quantity of fresh sap, which is primarily water. Therefore, in order to conserve both time and energy, we must concentrate the sap before we begin boiling. Here we have reverse osmosis. Through a process known as reverse osmosis, the sap is pushed under pressure through specialized membranes that separate the sugar from the water. We can extract a significant amount of water prior to it reaching the evaporator. This greatly improves the efficiency and speed of the subsequent phase, evaporation. The syrup maker and the environment both benefit from the time and wood saved by this. The important part is that we have finally arrived at it. Dissipation of liquid. Following the completion of reverse osmosis, the concentrated sap is heated to a low temperature in a massive evaporator. A large pan, often used in industrial settings, is placed over a fire or propane burner to serve as the evaporator. Removing water from the sap until it thickens to syrup consistency is the primary objective. Slowly but surely, the sap begins to boil, the water evaporates, and the syrup takes shape, gradually changing color and becoming more concentrated. Boiling the sap to the correct consistency and temperature is an extremely sensitive operation. When the syrup rises to around 219 degrees Fahrenheit or 104 degrees Celsius, it is cooked. When the sap reaches a sugar level of around 66%, it becomes thick enough to be called syrup. Making syrup is only half the fun of boiling it to the correct temperature. The other half is enhancing the flavor. In this case, the Maillard reaction is relevant. This occurs when the sap's carbohydrates and amino acids undergo a heat-induced reaction. Syrup gets its deeper color and rich, nuanced flavor from it. We get the wonderful caramel and butterscotch tastes from the sap's sugars, which caramelize as the sap boils. The late-season syrup gets its powerful, robust flavor from the longer the sap boils, which causes the syrup to grow darker and richer. The next time you want to top your pancakes with syrup, Keep the Maillard process in mind for the rich caramel flavor. The syrup is bottled or jarred after it has been filtered once more to eliminate any remaining contaminants. It is now prepared for labeling, packaging, and shipment to retailers worldwide. That concludes our tour of the maple syrup production process. From tree to table, it is a delightful journey that calls for talent, accuracy, and a touch of technological and natural magic. The classic Russian ice cream, plombier. The tastes of plombier are so intense and velvety that they will make your mouth water as you bite into a scoop. Many generations of Russians have enjoyed this legendary ice cream. To top it all off, with meticulous attention to detail, a single factory can crank out thousands of these goodies in a few hours. So, what gives this seemingly ordinary dish its legendary status? The beginnings. Despite its current popularity in Russia, plombier really originated in France during the 1800s. A confectioner hailing from Colmar, France, concocted a delectable delicacy by combining fruits immersed in cherry liqueur with eggs and cream, and then chilling the mixture. Plombier, as we know it now, developed from this tasty delicacy when it traveled to Russia. While the Soviet Union was in power in Russia, plombier was an essential dessert. The GS regulations mandated by the Soviet Union said that plombier must have a high fat content and be free of artificial ingredients. Because of these regulations, plombier became one of the most beloved desserts in the nation. Rich, creamy, and flavorful with every scoop. Methods of production. Collecting high-quality ingredients is the first step in brewing plombier. Eggs, sugar, fresh milk, cream, and occasionally condensed milk are the primary ingredients. Local, sustainably focused dairies are the usual go-to for factories when it comes to milk and cream. The thick, creamy texture of plombier is achieved by the high-fat content of the cream. To make it smooth and delicious, we add condensed milk and sugar. Eggs, being a natural emulsifier, assist to combine everything together into a silky concoction. The selection of these premium materials is followed by their transportation to the plant, the site of the actual miracle. In a manufacturing setting, mixing is the initial step. To make sure everything is mixed evenly and smoothly, big industrial mixers are utilized. Because the end result might have an uneven texture or taste due to inconsistent mixing, this stage is vital. The pasteurization process follows the mixing of all components. To eliminate any potential danger, the combination must be heated to a temperature of around 85 degrees Celsius. 185 degrees Fahrenheit. Pasteurization is crucial since it guarantees the ice cream's safety for consumption and facilitates flavor blending. However, be careful not to overheat the combination, as this can alter the flavor, and keep in mind that dangerous germs could survive if the temperature is too low. The secret to the velvety texture of plombier is homogenization, which follows pasteurization. As part of the homogenization process, fat molecules are hydrolyzed into microscopic droplets and distributed uniformly over the liquid. A machine that uses high pressure to combine the ingredients accomplishes this. This ensures that the fat remains well blended, resulting in a velvety, lump-free ice cream. The ice cream's flavor and texture will suffer if this process isn't executed correctly. Transferring the homogenized mixture to the aging tanks allows it to sit for a few hours, typically ranging from 4 to 12 to thicken. Because it allows the tastes to mature and the texture to level out, aging is crucial. The ice cream's creaminess is achieved when the mixture's proteins and fats combine at this stage. To prevent the mixture from freezing as it thickens, the tanks are maintained at a cold temperature of around 4 degrees Celsius, 39 degrees Fahrenheit. The ice cream's ability to withstand freezing is further enhanced by this aging process. People adore plombier for its thick, dense texture, which is achieved by a simple procedure. Freezing and turning are the next steps once the mixture has matured. At this point, plombier begins to take form. The aging process begins with placing the mixture in a continuous freezer, which simultaneously cools and freezes the ice cream. The amount of air introduced to the mixture during churning determines the end product's smoothness and density. Because very little air is added to plombier, it has a thick and rich mouthfeel. The ice cream freezes as it churns, but the continual stirring prevents it from creating big ice crystals, keeping it smooth and creamy. The ice cream is rapidly cooled down below -20 degrees Celsius, -4 degrees Fahrenheit, by use of the continuous freezer. The ice cream must be frozen quickly so that it retains its creamy consistency and does not become grainy. The plum beer will have reached its ultimate shape at the conclusion of this process, but it is still not edible. The plum beer has been churned and frozen to perfection. The following steps involve filling and molding. Careful shaping and packaging determines whether the ice cream ends up in a tub, a cone, or a bar. In order to form the plum beer into ice cream bars, it is poured into molds and allowed to set. Ice cream is measured out precisely using accurate filling devices for both tubs and cones. To guarantee precision and tidiness, this step of the process is heavily mechanized. Each container of ice cream is filled to the exact measurement thanks to the extremely accurate construction of the equipment. A blast freezer is used to give the ice cream the finishing touch of hardening as soon as it is filled. To ensure the ice cream freezes uniformly and rapidly, the blast freezer uses extremely cold air blasted over it at high speeds. You may put the plum beer in a container when it is set. To further guarantee efficiency and cleanliness, the packing process is also entirely automated. As it travels around conveyor belts, the ice cream goes through a series of packaging processes. As an example, you may use foil or paper to wrap the bars. The ice cream is packed into containers and covered with lids to make tubs. The ice cream will remain fresh and safe in its packaging while it is being transported. Keep your ice cream's texture and flavor intact by avoiding freezer burn with airtight packaging. Strict quality control methods are used at several stages along the production line throughout the whole process. To make sure everything is in order, there are inspection stations. When pollutants or abnormalities are too small to be seen with the human eye, sophisticated imaging techniques such as X-ray equipment and spectroscopy are employed. Make sure your plum beer lives up to the high requirements by sampling and testing each batch for texture, taste, and consistency. The ice cream cannot proceed to storage or distribution unless it has passed these tests. After packaging, the plum beer ice cream is placed in temperature-controlled cold storage chambers to ensure it stays in pristine condition until it is time for shipment. The ice cream stays frozen and delicious by being stored at temperatures of around -25 degrees Celsius, -13 degrees Fahrenheit. Lastly, the ice cream is prepared for shipment by being put onto trucks with refrigeration. The ice cream must remain cold during transportation, and these vehicles are engineered to do just that. These vehicles include GPS and temperature sensors to simplify the complicated process of transporting frozen items, ensuring that the ice cream reaches its destination in optimal condition. One of Russia's most popular ice creams, plum beer, goes through an intriguing process that you can now see for yourself. Every step of the process, from choosing the finest ingredients to combining, pasteurizing, homogenizing, and freezing, is done with the intention of making a product that is rich, creamy, and absolutely wonderful. Plum beer has a long and storied past, much like the ice cream it is made of. It originated in France but has since become a beloved Russian tradition. To guarantee that every batch of plum beer is of the greatest quality, the production process combines traditional methods with contemporary technology. Serving plum beer in whatever form, a cone, a tub, or an ice cream bar, is more than simply a treat. It's a culinary heritage and a celebration of ice cream's artistic merit. What really goes into making chocolate? It takes weeks to turn bitter cocoa beans into your beloved sweet treat. And did you know that chocolate begins its trip inside a football-shaped fruit? Chocolate has enchanted people for generations, from ancient ceremonies to contemporary pleasures. This is the real deal when it comes to making chocolate. A chocolate adventure. Planting cocoa plants is the first step in making this tasty treat. Theobroma cacao, the scientific name for the cocoa tree, meaning food of the gods. It's a little-known fact that the majority of the world's cocoa beans originate in West Africa. Roughly 70% of the global supply comes from them. In terms of soil type, these trees are rather particular. They thrive in warm, shaded areas with high humidity, 80% or more, temperatures of 25–77 degrees Celsius, 77 F, and plenty of space to spread out. It also needs a lot of rain, roughly 1,800 mm or 71 inches yearly. Yeah, it requires a lot of upkeep. Fruits like footballs grow on every branch and trunk of these trees. Ripeness is indicated by the fruit's transformation into a vibrant shade of yellow or red. This is a crucial step because it guarantees the plants will continue to produce additional pods. To avoid damaging the trees, harvesters use tools like shears, picaroons, and machetes to delicately pluck the pods. Pickers require precise timing information since pods don't mature simultaneously. Both the color and the sound made by tapping the pods can be used as indicators. In order to access the cocoa beans within, the pods are opened after harvesting. 20 to 40 beans are encased in a sticky, milky pulp within each pod. The beans are sifted to retain just the finest ones. The final product's quality of the chocolate is dependent on this phase, thus, it's crucial. Bacteria growth. Fermentation, the next stage, is critical since it enhances the chocolate's taste. Placing the beans in specialized fermentation boxes and covering them with banana leaves allows the pulp to remain attached to the beans, imparting a rich and acidic taste. Typically, this procedure takes between 3 and 9 days. An essential step in the process, fermentation converts the pulp's natural sugars to alcohol and subsequently acids. Not only does this remove the pulp and kill bacteria, but it also gives the beans their signature brown hue and a deep, rich flavor. Tiered fermentation boxes are commonly used by large cocoa processors to ensure that the beans are given enough air and ferment uniformly. The beans must be dried after fermentation so that their moisture content is below 7%. To keep the beans mold-free and ready for storage and shipment, this is an absolute must. Drying the beans in the sun on wooden decks takes many days according to tradition. To get the moisture level just right, certain humid places utilize artificial drying processes that involve fire or hot air. In addition to removing excess moisture, drying beans brings forth their full taste. To make sure the beans dry uniformly, you should flip them every so often over the 5 to 7 days that this procedure typically takes. The beans undergo a comprehensive inspection for contaminants and undesirable particles after they have dried. Bagging is the next step, and it is reserved for the finest beans. Sturdy jute or sisal bags are used to store these beans. The bags let air circulate while keeping moisture out. Every bag is as heavy as a tiny person, weighing in at 60 to 70 kilograms, 132 to 154 pounds. Manufacturers of chocolate from all around the globe receive the packed beans thereafter. The beans must be extremely dry to avoid mold during the lengthy voyage, because shipping is often done by sea and might take several months. Processing. The journey to chocolate paradise may be long, but it's well worth it. Upon arrival at the facility, the beans undergo a thorough washing process to eliminate any remaining trash, stones, or twigs. To keep your chocolate bar free of contaminants, cleaning is essential. The beans must be absolutely clean before the machines go on to the following stage, which involves shaking them with air and vibration to remove any debris. A quality examination is necessary before the beans can be transformed into chocolate. To make sure the beans are up to par, experts with good palates taste them. A sample of the beans is sliced open to examine their texture and color as part of the inspection process. The best beans will be a consistent shade of brown and free of damage or mold. In this way, we can be confident that only the finest beans are used to make the chocolate. Spices and meat pulverization. After that, the beans are roasted. The cocoa bean roasting process is the secret ingredient. Roasting the beans in an air-filled roaster that is gas-heated takes 30 minutes to 2 hours. They go from being roughly 7% moisture to about 1% after this, and they taste better. We may get any flavor by adjusting the roasting time and temperature to our liking. The inherent acidity and fruity aromas of the beans are preserved in light roasts, similar to a slight sunburn. Richer, deeper tastes are brought forth by darker roasts. Crushing the beans is the next step after roasting. A winnower is a machine that uses air to separate the beans from their nibs after cracking their shells. Imagine a large fan sweeping away the delicate shells, leaving just the nibs in its wake. Because chocolate is made exclusively from nibs, which include cocoa solids and butter, this stage is very important. Chocolate liquor, sometimes termed cocoa mass, is a paste made from crushed beans. Liquor made from chocolate has a rich, bitter flavor, a very fragrant scent, and a dark brown hue. To call it the bean's essence would be accurate. Cocoa solids, also known as cocoa powder, make up half of the mixture, while cocoa butter, an odorless yellow fatty liquid that melts at room temperature, makes up the other half. Hardening and softening. Conching is the following step, and it involves grinding the chocolate mass even further to make it even more refined. This step in the production process involves adding sugar and milk powder to the chocolate mass. Whether we're preparing milk chocolate or dark chocolate dictates the proportions of the ingredients. Unlike dark or milk chocolate, white chocolate undergoes a distinct production process and does not include any chocolate liquor. In order to create white chocolate, the cocoa butter is extracted from chocolate liquor by pressing it until it becomes a cake. This cake then contains cocoa solids and a vat of flavorless cocoa butter. The next step is to combine the cocoa butter with sugar, milk or milk powder, and vanilla. Just so you know, white chocolate essentially doesn't taste like cocoa at all. Since the cocoa solids aren't utilized in white chocolate, all you can taste are sugar, milk, and other culinary additives. However, returning to the topic of milk versus dark chocolate, conching might take anywhere from a few hours to many days. Conching reduces the sugar and cocoa solids to particles so tiny, often about 20 microns, that they are imperceptible on the tongue. To get the silky smoothness that is characteristic of premium chocolate, this is an essential step. Before shaping the chocolate, it must be tempered. The cocoa butter crystals will be stabilized in the chocolate by gradually heating and chilling it throughout this process. The smooth texture, sparkling appearance, and pleasant snap of broken chocolate are all results of proper tempering. Chocolate may get gritty, uneven, and lifeless if not prepared properly. Nobody wants that. It's like having a horrible haircut. It is common practice to pour tempered chocolate into molds so it can cool and solidify. Components and adornments. We can now unleash our imaginations when it comes to fillings and decorations, thanks to the chocolate. Pralines are a delectable kind of chocolate filled with a variety of delicious ingredients, such as almonds, caramel, or ganache. A coating of chocolate is applied on top of the fillings to create the foundation. Then, to make them even more tempting, they are adorned with designs. If you want to jazz up your chocolates, you may drizzle them with contrasting chocolate, sprinkle them with edible glitter, or use molds and stencils to create elaborate designs. Making chocolates that look as wonderful as they taste is the objective. So, that's the recipe for chocolate. See the making of Nutella from behind the scenes. Sure, I'll dig into something interesting. Nutella. Yes, the rich chocolatey spread that everyone sneakily devours while no one is looking. How about that tasty container of Nutella? Have you ever pondered how those manufacturers manage to make batches that are consistently smooth? Get ready for an exclusive look into the assembly process because we're about to head there. Warning: it involves more than simply combining chocolate and hazelnuts in a blender. I have a small favor to ask before we go on. Hit that like button and subscribe if you're having fun with the video. It won't cost you a dime, but it will have a profound impact on our cause. Your adventure starts at the biggest cocoa pod farm on Earth. Yeah, they're planting the seeds that will mature into your favorite food right now. As if it were a treasure hunt, workers sift through cocoa pods by hand, selecting just the best ones to use. They're really picky, so you can't simply grab any ordinary pod. The magic happens in the processing facility where the pods that have been selected are placed into containers and quickly transported. Envision these massive machinery slicing apart the cocoa pods like an egg. The cocoa nibs, who are sometimes overlooked while preparing chocolate, are within. Workers, who are essentially cocoa processing ninjas, delicately remove these nibs. They are left to dry in the open air until they get a crisp skin, and then the quality test may begin. Working with beans. The next step is a complete transformation of the cocoa beans. Machines vibrate the beans as they are hurled into hoppers, removing the dry outer peel and leaving behind clean beans. It's as if you were treating them to a day at the spa before you roasted them. The beans go on to the grinding step after being roasted, after which the husks are removed and discarded. We all know and appreciate the cocoa powder that is made from crushed-up beans. Blending substances. Beyond cocoa, Nutella is a whole lot more. Our ingredients include sugar, milk, hazelnuts, and of course, palm oil. Let's speak about sugar for a second, since this isn't your average sugar. Sugar beets are used instead, and it undergoes a rather rigorous procedure to ensure it is the purest and cleanest sugar imaginable. The sugar is extracted from cleaned and shredded beets, and then subjected to a battery of testing to ensure it meets Nutella's exacting requirements. The milk comes next. You won't find Nutella made with any old milk on the market. They get their milk from contented cows, oh no. The correct answer is happy cows. It would seem that the more the cow's happiness, the greater the milk it produces. Does it make sense? Therefore, these happy cows are treated with the utmost respect, and their milk undergoes stringent testing before it can be used in Nutella. Quality control is the most important thing, everyone. Palm oil with hazelnuts. We must now go into hazelnuts in order to discuss Nutella. We go to Turkey, the world's hazelnut capital, for that. When the people behind Nutella show around, hazelnut harvesting becomes an absolute must. Huge pieces of machinery churn in, sorting through the rubble and collecting hazelnuts. The hazelnuts are roasted and checked by real people, yes, real people, after they arrive at the factory to make sure nothing bad gets through. The palm oil is an obvious consideration. Everyone seems to have an opinion on palm oil, but in Nutella, it's the magic ingredient that keeps the spread from solidifying and gives it that deliciously creamy texture. To extract the golden liquid that is palm oil, the newly picked palm fruit is first sterilized, then threshed, and last compressed. The key is quality, like with everything else. Combine and fill. The moment has come to combine all of the main components that we have collected. The hazelnut's inherent oils are responsible for their velvety texture, which is achieved by grinding them into a paste and then adding Nutella's signature chocolate chips. Add the other ingredients one by one, starting with the milk powder, sugar, and cocoa powder. Here we find the magic ingredient, that harmonious blend of flavors with just the right amount of sugar, creaminess, and richness. It's not a fluke. Rather, it's the product of extensive mixing to get a velvety spread consistency. Filling those famous Nutella jars is the next exciting step. This is completed really rapidly after the spread is prepared. With pinpoint accuracy, the machines fill, seal, and label every jar. Watching these jars glide by on the assembly line destined for stores and our homes is nearly mesmerizing. Now that we've covered that, let's shift gears and discuss some of the other mouth-watering goodies made at these state-of-the-art facilities. Are you curious in the recipe for jam-filled biscuits? It's like witnessing a perfectly working machine in a literal sense. Producing as many as 100 million sunflower-shaped biscuits with jam centers each day, these machines work at breakneck speeds. Once the biscuits are squeezed and the jam is poured into the center, it's as if magic happens. Observing the process in action is strangely pleasant, especially when you notice how neat and well-organized everything is. We also must mention those very excellent waffles. Not your ordinary waffles, light as air, golden in color, and bursting with flavor. In order to ensure that the dough rises to the ideal temperature before it is baked to perfection, factories use dedicated proofing rooms. Just as good as eating into a freshly made waffle for breakfast is seeing the waffle iron push down to make those crispy, grid-like patterns. It's almost as if you were observing a painter in action, only instead of paint, it's batter. There you have it. You can't expect miraculous things like Nutella to materialize on shop shelves by magic. It's a trip that begins with well-selected cocoa pods, continues with contented cows, and culminates with jars of spread that are mouth-watering from spoon to spoon. Feel free to hit that like button if you're just as enthralled by this inside peek as I am. In order to view more incredible production processes like these, please subscribe. No one told me industries could be so hypnotic, did they? Plus, tell us in the comments, do you like your Nutella spread over toast, crepes, or by itself? I think we can all relate. Have fun with the next one. I appreciate you tuning in.